World leaders are absolutely furious at Donald Trump and his despicable regime, and world leaders are calling out Donald Trump's various ambassadors to their countries because these ambassadors keep disrespecting the countries and officials that they're there to try to be diplomats for in theory, and they're not being diplomatic. They're just outright attacking the countries where they are the ambassador. The most recent example in Poland, and this has caused a national outcry there, where you had the ambassador to Poland, a guy by the name of Tom Rose, who's a J.D. Vance lackey who became the ambassador to Poland 3 months ago or so, posted the following message. Effective immediately, we will have no further dealings, contacts, or communications with the Marshal of the same Sarzowski, whose outrageous and unprovoked insults directed against President Trump, the POTUS, has made himself a serious impediment to our excellent relations with Prime Minister Tusk and his government. We will not permit anyone to harm U.S.-Polish relations nor disrespect Donald Trump, who has done so much for Poland and the Polish people. Now, Sarzowski is basically the number 2 in the lower chambers of parliament in Poland. He's basically like the speaker, the marshal, the speaker of the House. And all he said is that Donald Trump should not get the Nobel Peace Prize. And by saying Trump should not get the Nobel Peace Prize, the new ambassador to Poland attacked him and said, I'm not dealing with you, and the U.S. is basically going to boycott you. To which people in Poland were like, you're going to boycott our Speaker of the House? Who the hell are you, Ambassador Tom Rose? Who are you while your regime is covering up a child sex trafficking ring in the United States? And by the way, Prime Minister Tusk had the same Sarzowskis back and said the following, Mr. Ambassador Rose, allies should respect each other, not lecture each other. At least this is how we here in Poland understand our partnership. And then Tom Rose, the ambassador to Poland, kept on just attacking random accounts on X, formerly Twitter. Like this account said, fantastic. It'll be even better if you stop getting involved in Polish politics and domestic affairs. People in Poland just basically tweeting or social media posting at Ambassador Tom Rose, who goes, anyone who insults or denigrates my president is interfering in my politics. You do not tolerate being insulted, and neither will we. And then Tom Rose posts again, should we take all of our soldiers and equipment with us? So as Jacob Krupa writes, so the U.S. ambassador to Poland is now casually implying the threat of pulling U.S. troops and military equipment from the country in a Twitter spat with a random university student. Yeah, that is peak 2026 right there. And then you had this individual, Roman Gajricic, who, as this one account says, to add context, Gajricic used to be one of the extreme right, as for now is still the far right, but viewed a little bit more reasonable than extreme right. So for him to support Sarzowski over America and over Rose is like Rand Paul to support Bernie Sanders. And so here is what the former deputy prime minister and minister of education, Roman Gajricic, has to say. Dear ambassador, referring to the ambassador from the United States to Poland, your position that you will not maintain relations with the Marshal of the Sejm, and again, the Sejm is the parliament, the lower parliament in Poland, the upper chamber is called the Senate, who was elected by the parliamentary majority representing the majority of Poles, is simply insolent. The times when ambassadors dictated to Poles who should be who in Poland are over and will never return. We want good relations with the USA, but your representatives will not be choosing the authorities of the Republic of Poland for us. I have never been a fan of Sarzowski, but in this matter, as a member of parliament, I stand firmly behind him. Your president first insulted Polish soldiers and then demands support for his dreams of a Nobel Peace Prize. The times when Nero demanded, under threat of punishment, recognition for his musical talents were recognized as the beginning of the fall of the Roman Empire. Donald Trump's efforts to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, while at the same time hanging a photo of himself with the greatest criminal of our time, Putin, are, from a Polish perspective, similar to demanding awards and praise in front of Nero. So first, may I just share with you the video that Zarzowski posted, where he just said Trump does not deserve a Nobel Peace Prize, and this is what triggered the MAGA ambassador to Poland, Tom Rose, to go on that ranting and raving like a lunatic spree, threatening Poland, which now has created a national outcry in Poland against the United States, although that's been building for some time. So here's what Zbigniew Zarzowski has to say. Here, play this clip.
I absolutely will not support any nomination for a Nobel Prize for President Trump because, quite frankly, he simply does not deserve such an honor. The United States building new platforms such as a so-called Peace Council is, in my opinion, entirely illusory and misguided. Instead, we must focus on strengthening the existing crucial institutions like the European Union, NATO, the United Nations, the WHO, and most importantly, ourselves. This is precisely where our collective security truly lies. In my personal opinion, President Trump is actively destabilizing the entire situation within these various international organizations by representing a policy of raw power and by using that very same power to conduct what is essentially a purely transactional form of global politics. This represents a clear violation of the established policy of principles and core values, and it is often a direct violation of the fundamental standards of international law. A policy of tariffs, a different interpretation of history, for example, concerning the involvement of Polish soldiers in missions, the instrumental treatment of other territories, such as, for instance, the instrumental treatment of Greenland. All of this, ladies and gentlemen, leads me to the firm conclusion that I cannot possibly endorse the nomination for a Nobel Prize for President Trump because he simply does not deserve it.
By the way, Prime Minister Tusk posted this photo of himself reading Autocracy Inc. In the time of strategic uncertainty, it's worth knowing who we are dealing with. Also, earlier in the week, Prime Minister Tusk announced an investigation into any involvement in Poland or otherwise in connection with Jeffrey Epstein. One of the things, and I'll play this clip for you, that Prime Minister Tusk basically said, and in my view, this was also coded, calling out the Trump regime, which is at the heart of the Epstein cabal, is that Poland will not be subject to a honeypot, compromat interference of Putin into Poland, because it's become increasingly clear after reviewing those 3 million files, the partial release of those 3 million files. There's still 3 million more documents to go, which could be tens of millions and more pages. It seems that Epstein was really working with the KGB and having these links with Putin and others in order to build this compromat, these compromising relations with American politicians and others throughout the world in order to blackmail them, basically. So here's what Prime Minister Tusk, here's the official statement that he said. Here, play this clip.
We cannot allow any of the cases of Polish children exploited by the pedophile network and by the organizer of this satanic circle, Mr. Epstein, to be disregarded by anyone. The first reports have emerged concerning individuals who, for example, informed Mr. Epstein from Krakow that they already had a group of Polish women or girls. We, along with the Minister of Justice, the Prosecutor General, and the Minister Coordinator for Special Services, have jointly decided to establish an analytical team and potentially launch an investigation if analyses confirm our concerns regarding the pedophilia scandal in the United States. The very well-known Scottish journalist Andrew Marr yesterday posed truly crucial questions, and these pertain to every government across the globe. These are questions regarding what we intend to do about this, given that suspicions concerning Epstein's connections and that entire pedophile network with Russian special services are escalating daily. This issue must also be thoroughly investigated by us, considering the national security of the Polish state.
And by the way, folks, this is a pattern with the Trump regime. The Trump regime picks ambassadors who attack the places that they're supposed to be acting diplomatic with. You know, I'll give you another clear example we talk about as well. Pete Hoekstra. Pete Hoekstra is the United States ambassador to Canada. He's attacked the MeidasTouch network before. He's gone after Charlie Angus, who runs Meidas Canada. By the way, make sure you subscribe to Meidas Canada. Oh, and while you're at it, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on our way to 6 million subscribers thanks to your support. So make sure you hit subscribe right here. But Hoekstra's, the one who talks about, Canada should be the 51st state. It should just join America. And then Hoekstra gaslights the people of Canada. It's like, what did we do to make you upset? Why are you getting all emotional there, Canada? We've never insulted you. Why are you acting so disrespectful to us? Because you're threatening to conquer it? Because you're threatening to take it over? Because you're imposing tariffs and trade wars and accusing Canada of running a narco-terroristic state because you come from the same playbook of Putin? Maybe that's why. But do you see that this is a pattern of the Trump ambassador? So I'll just show you the most recent interview that Hoekstra did that's available. He did it with a local network right here, CJAD 880 AM in Canada. And here's what Hoekstra had to say right over here. Here he is talking about, why is Canada all angry at the U.S.? What did we do to you? We didn't do anything wrong to you. Here, play this clip.
From my perspective, I read lots of stuff, Canadian stuff, that Canadians say about the United States of America. Yeah. I look at what Canadian government, provincial governments are doing to the United States. It doesn't make me very happy, but Canadians are free to do what they want.
Can you give me an example or two on that end that is on the top of that list for you?
In terms of tone
and decisions, what you just referenced, the things that you're reading.
Sure. I mean, I think you have premiers who attack the president personally. Okay. I am not aware of the president's team, governors, or the folks that work out of the embassy attacking Mark Carney. We respect him as the leader of Canada. You have folks that just absolutely trash the president, who are in key government officials, and that's a decision they make. I don't like it, but if that's what they want to do, that's what they can do. There
have been some indications that U.S. sectors have been hurt by the current state of relations between the country. I looked at one recent poll that shows a 70-20 split on keeping U.S. booze off Canadian shelves. 70% of Canadians in favor, only 20% oppose that. And of course, that hurts U.S. booze manufacturers.
Sure.
How do you view that aspect, that there are U.S. companies hurting because of all this?
Well, I think, it's absolutely appropriate for Canada to retaliate. We have banned so many Canadian products in the United States of America. Oh, wait a minute. No, we haven't. Okay. We haven't banned any American products in Canada. Excuse me. We haven't banned any Canadian products in America.
Yeah.
We do not have the president's team or governor saying, don't travel to America. If you go into a store, pick up a box and take a look, and if it says made in America, put it back. We don't do that. But again, if Canada's negotiating position and they believe that this strengthens their negotiating position to ban American products, encourage their citizens not to travel to the United States, that's their negotiating position, and it kind of sets a tone for the relationship.
All right, let's talk
more from Hoekstra in this interview right here.
So it's your 250th birthday for America, right? Yeah. And there are a lot of Canadians that say, I don't want to celebrate. To wrap up here, what's your message to the Canadians that in the last little while said, I don't want to celebrate America this year. Maybe I would have, but now I don't want to.
That's a Canadian decision. Okay. We've been great partners for a long period of time. We are, we're going through this as a negotiation. Doesn't have to be an emotional issue. If you want to make it an emotional issue, that's fine. Debate, things that the president has said. We don't get, I'm not getting, wrapped up in what this person says or that person says. It's kind of like, this is good for business in America. That's my objective. I'm assuming that Mark Carney and his team, they're negotiating for what's best in Canada. And in 8 or 9 months, we'll see exactly where that ends up.
Then Hoekstra talks more about, it's this Canadian attitude, man. Check your attitude, man. It's like, okay, that's like gaslighting at its finest right there. Here, play this clip.
Of course, we've seen the ramifications of that. Like Canadians, their attitude toward the U.S. has changed in the last year because of that.
Yeah, and if that, hey, we're going through negotiations, and if the Canadian government believes and it's going to follow public opinion, Canadian government may decide that, okay, doing business with America is not in our best interest, and we're going to go another way. Canada's a sovereign country; they can do that. But
the United States has a role in that public that public favorability, right? There are ways where you could be having statements that would lead the Canadian public to say, yeah, this is a vital relationship. So I wonder if there's bad blood right now.
Obviously right now with public opinion polls, the public doesn't view the relationship necessarily as being very valuable or critical. My opinion on this is that it has created a tremendous amount of prosperity and wealth and a tremendous number of high quality, high paying jobs on both sides of the border.
I mean, that guy's loathsome. He's detestable. And he's too afraid to even do an interview with Charlie Angus over at Midas Canada. And so, yeah, I mean, he's pathetic. But just go into the hearing that took place today in the United States Senate, where you had the Democratic senator from Nevada, Cortez Masto, cross-examining Treasury Secretary Bessent about American tourism being absolutely destroyed because of the Canadian boycott. And it's not just Canada, and it's not just Vegas and Nevada. It's the rest of the country, and it's also other nations as well. And we've seen America is in a massive jobs recession right now. America's economy is suffering right now. And watch Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He's so arrogant. He's like, I don't even want to do his voice. Here, play this clip.
This is the data from the Commerce Department, this administration's Commerce Department on National Travel and Tourism Office, year-over-year declines in travelers from October 24th to the 25th. It's not just from Canada. It's from Germany. It's from the Netherlands. It's from Australia. It's New Zealand. It's India. It's Vietnam. It's Philippines. We are seeing under this administration a U.S. Travel Association travel forecast that is dealing with now nearly a $70 billion travel trade deficit for 2025. So how do you intend to address the tourism travel issue that we are losing money in this country because of the policies of this administration?
Is overall the occupancy in Las Vegas down, or more Americans going?
I'm talking about internationally. It's not just me. It's Florida. It's other states that are dealing with a decline in tourism. And this is my conversation with you for the last year that seems to be this administration keeps ignoring. It is a $1 trillion industry to this country, and you don't seem to think it is important. Let me talk about something else, though.
Finally, you have President Zelensky of Ukraine continuing to try to pursue a diplomatic path, noting that at the end of the day, the Trump regime's goal is to help Putin and help Russia anyway. But Zelensky knows he has to just go through the motions and hopes to get through this Trump regime as much as he can, because he knows that Donald Trump is quite literally on the side of Putin. I mean, how do you know he's on the side of Putin? He has Putin's photo in the Oval Office right in the West Wing, right above the photo of his grandkids. The most prominent photo is a photo that Trump has with Putin. Now, don't even get me started on the Epstein files. Putin is all over those Epstein files. And Epstein said, meeting with Putin. Tell Putin this, Putin Bitcoin, this, that, It was so obvious what's going on here. Yeah, as Donald would say, Russia, 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 Russia. Yeah. When you have a photo of Putin in the Oval Office, yeah, that's Russia, Russia, Russia right there. And when you try to both sides everything, oh yeah, Donald, when earlier in the week, you gave a press conference and you said that Putin, this was Monday, remember? Trump said, Putin called me and he said, because it's so cold in Ukraine that Russia has stopped any attacks on Ukraine and will stop attacking for the foreseeable future This was big. Look what I secured. Then like within the hour, Russia starts, boom, Shahid drones on Kyiv and Kharkiv and all of the areas. Boom, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, attacking residential properties, barrage, one of the worst missile attacks ever. Then Donald Trump was asked the next day, hey, Donald, didn't you say on Monday that Putin agreed that he wasn't going to attack Ukraine during the cold? Isn't that what you said? Oh, no. I said 5 days. It ended Sunday. Putin kept his word. He's a man of his word. How pathetic is Donald Trump? How pathetic is this whole disgusting regime? Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.